Potty Toddy Nation, we're at it again with Party Pruden on X, Chris Pruden. Chris is one of the finest of Ole Miss. Had to have him on again. Chris, thanks so much for joining. Chris covered top players in Ole Miss history, which was really cool to reminisce and throw back last time. This time, we're going to talk more about Austin Simmons, one guy, one dude, emphasis, who is being slept on for Heisman Trophy, and let him sleep, right, Chris? But he's definitely, in our opinion, more than a dark horse. We're going to get into why you should bet your mortgage on him, unsolicited gambling advice if so. But we're both high on, playfully, but both high on Austin Simmons. So Chris is the expert with all things Ole Miss here, and I wanted to get him on to really dive into like Austin Simmons' story, what you should expect this year and everything, because until this point, everything's been around Jackson Dart. So obviously Ole Miss is moving on now, and Austin Simmons is the man. So we're going to talk about it. But Chris, thanks again so much for hopping on. Let the audience know how they can find you, and feel free to introduce yourself.
Of course, man. Thanks again for having me. It's always good to get on here. I'm on Ole Miss Chris on Instagram, Party Pruden on X or Twitter, whatever you guys prefer to call. Just diehard Ole Miss guy, and glad we're back here to talk about Austin. It's going to be a good year.
Yep. It's funny, like outside of Ole Miss, nobody, and it is what it is, right? Everybody's got their teams, their niches, their conferences, etc. But like before Jackson Dart, everybody knew about Matt Corral. I'm talking recent, like under Kiffin. Right. But then like Jackson Dart comes, and nobody even knew that when Dart was there, they had not just Austin, but two guys with Walker Howard in the building already that were like could have started.
So, yeah, for sure.
Definitely neat. I'll give a background real quick on Austin and his recruitment and all that, how that transpired. And then I'll let Chris bring us up to speed, like current day and what to expect maybe from him. Meant to get the episode started. Sorry, but we're playing the one game he got in this year in about 10 seconds, promise. Georgia. He had some meaningful game action that he got in this past year. So we'll play clips from that Georgia game. Ole Miss won it in Oxford. That was a huge win. But anyways, so Austin Simmons, many know him or would remember him as the guy that reclassified by 2 years, right? That is so. However, he was an older, like sophomore, right, in high school. So just understand that he wasn't like a guy by age, like a lot younger. He's younger, but he reclassified by 2 years. And he's out of Florida was where he went to high school. And I meant to have this downloaded, but he was a 4-star. In the class of 2024 because he reclassified. If he had, Chris knows this, stayed classified, he would have been coming out with this year's class, like the Jared Curtises that just committed and everything. He was like a 5-star. It was an early projection because they were just kicking up the services, but like Faison Brandon's another one with Tennessee. Like he was in that grouping. So just understand that the only reason, much like Ryan Williams a little bit, right? Williams still kind of stayed up there with his recruitment after reclassifying, but Simmons' recruitment ranking dropped to a 4-star, technically, class of 2023, only because he opted to reclassify. So there was seriously like, and he did this like spring portal, like that timeline. So there was like hardly any time for these recruiting services to catch up, whether it's On3, Rivals, 24/7 on this guy. But nonetheless, 4-star goes to Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. And then there we sat, right? He was a true freshman entering camp. And Walker Howard, as Ole Miss fans know, LSU fans too, transfers from his home state of Louisiana at LSU to Ole Miss. And Walker presumed, I'm the next guy. And then Kiffin, good on Kiffin, pulls Simmons from the high school recruiting classes. So now all of a sudden you got, okay, Jackson Dart's coming back for 2024, but you have a battle for the number 2 spot. And that's where Simmons and Howard came into play. And that's kind of where I'll stop momentarily. I'll let Chris give a little background on where Simmons is today and all that. But Chris, what did you have to add?
Well, I mean, I don't have any insider information. I haven't been in any practices or anything. But, you know, the thing with Austin, I mean, like you said, yeah, he's been there, a year or two now, and he got to sit behind Jackson. The kid graduated college in like 13 days or so. I don't know what the actual number is, but he's already graduated. He's insanely smart. You know, the kid played baseball as well, which takes, you know, a whole lot of smarts talent to do that as well. And clearly he's focused on football this year, but man, I think it's going to be a different look on offense, but I think it's still going to be exciting. I'm hoping for at least that Austin is going to play a slightly different role from what Jackson did. But the fact that he got to sit back, watch Jackson, and absorb some of that knowledge, because what Jackson's taken to the league, dude, he's going to be a talent for years to come. I have no doubts. I may be wrong, but I really 100% think he will be, you know. And the fact that Austin, being as smart as he is, was able to sit and kind of, you know, gain some of that game knowledge against Georgia, and he has some other, you know, small action here and there. But the kid, he's super talented, super smart, and with the talent he has receiving and the upgrades on the O-line that I think we have made, it's going to be scary, dude. In the running back room, Kevin Smith he's going to be on a revenge tour this year himself because of the way that it all played out last year. He caught a hell of a lot of flack, which, you know, say what you want about the guy. He's still a great running backs coach. We've had really, really good years with him with, you know, 1, 2, 3 running back, three-headed monster a year, you know, whatever, da. But he's got a lot of studs back there. We signed another high school kid yesterday or today, whenever it was. Austin's going to be able to fit into this and just do what we need him to do, I think, you know, maybe since he's, 6'4", I think, 220, 215, 220.
Yep.
Great frame standing behind these guys. We got 2 guys on the O-line now that are 6'7". Everybody else is 6'6", 6'4", 6'5", 320 plus. I mean, beefing way up from what we have been years past. And it's been a growth process with that as well. But I think all those things will factor in to help Austin and like you said, with all that in play, the fact that he's being overlooked is going to be, like you said, they're asleep. They'll wake up soon enough. It'll say in due time. In due time.
Right. He was playing baseball at Ole Miss as well, right? And now he's focusing on football.
He played last year, and I think he hurt his UCL or something to that effect at some point later in the season last year, and he devoted all of his time after this season to football. Good. So he's, you know, he's full-time on board there, which is great.
South Carolina, a different position, but Nick Harbor, their tight end / receiver, was a track guy, and he similarly just said, I'm doing 100% football. Right. Unfortunately for Harbor, it's been a year or two, and now he's made that decision. Good on Austin for figuring that out early. You just need to be singularly focused on one sport. Right. I'm all about 2-sport, 3-sport athletes, especially in high school, but I think especially football, right, when you get to the collegiate level. Right. But the guy, like, it's worth noting, he threw 95 guys on the mound. He was a pitcher. So in addition to his smarts, go ahead.
No, I'm just he was an absolute stud on the mound, dude. He's lefty, like you said, throwing 93, 95, and it's amazing. Right. Glad he's in football though.
Yeah, and I forgot about his smarts, man. He's like a Josh Dobbs level smart.
Oh, bro, he's absolutely insane. Like, I mean, like I said, literally, I don't know how many days. I said 13 days. Kid, right. I mean, time my freshman year calls, and he did graduate before. You know, it's insane, man. But
yeah, he definitely. I mean, crazy. Okay, just crazy. Like, and good on him. Like, and. Keep in mind, he's still a college student. This kid could have a PhD by the end of his true junior season or redshirt sophomore year. So worth noting as well, the notable game action last year, the meaningful, we'll call it, is this game when he came in for a series, I think it was singular against for Jackson Dart. Also, like what I remember, Chris, and because I was listening to Stephen Willis a lot at the time, when the season was starting, Jackson Dart was the clear-cut starter, but it was 1B between who was going to be number 2, Walker Howard, who had already been there for a year. Spencer Sanders had then graduated, right? The former Oklahoma State quarterback, who didn't see the field. But so then it was Walker Howard and Austin Simmons for that 1B spot. And then I think Maddox, the local kid from Mississippi.
Yeah, AJ Maddox there. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry, AJ. But yeah, AJ Maddox behind them. But clear cut, right? For the second spot, it was who's going to be the guy to replace Dart in 2025. Right. That was the talk for you guys in spring. The moment Austin got there, honestly, I think right initially you just figured Walker Howard, because Walker was a former high recruit, had a year or two on Simmons as far as experience at the college level, even though he hadn't started. That changed quick. Because even Steve and I remember saying, guys, this competition's probably going to linger until like now-ish. But it did not-ish. It was settled like in a month.
Yeah. It was a pretty, I think it was a quicker competition per se, if you will, than they thought. Anyone thought. Well, we actually, I won't say that because a lot of people expected it. But I mean, Walker, former 5-star, and look, he's gone to Louisiana now. And, we only I hope he has a great year and does the things we know he could have done. I mean, it's the way the cards fall, I guess, and Lane, I've got faith in him that he knew, and clearly Austin, like I said, dude, it's just the brain power and the arm talent, and Steven, you said talk about Tua plus 2 inches, right, is what he says, dude. And that's no doubt. And the kid can sling it. So
yes, man, that's where I'm like, the non-SEC folks, definitely not Ole Miss folks, it's frustrating because I'm not taking anything away from Matt Corral. Guy was a dog. He was a baller. He playing a broken ankle. He Byron Leftwich and playing a broken leg. And then you had Dart, who was also a dog. They were both great players. I agree with you. I think Dart's going to be a great pro. I'm excited to see him be a great pro. But this guy is next level, man. Just if you are not an Ole Miss fan, glue your eyes to this cat. Like, I mean, he is this game, Chris. Like, I hadn't really beyond podcasts heard or seen any practice footage like you guys have or had heard because you're clued in. But then once this game happened, we'll tell you what happened and why we're so high on this guy. And it's only one drive, but it's the whole preseason before this too. And what he built up to make himself the clear cut. And I think honestly, even until this moment in this game, it was presumed that he was probably number 2 behind Dart just because of what reporters that were in practice and people that had seen practice were saying, yeah, like Simmons is the dude. Like it's not really a competition, but you also like Kiffin's not going to come out and say necessarily like Simmons is number 2. Well, when it mattered, because Dart went out briefly in this game. I forget what it was for. It was for something. Yeah. So at that time, obviously, meaningful action, you're putting in the guy who you see as on that team, number 2. Well, that was Austin Simmons. And guys, watch this. I doubt we'll actually see the series in this game, but this cat just, like Chris said, lefty, like slung it. The offense, like I remember him throwing to Caden Lee in the slot. Like it was just on a different level.
That's the beat, man. It was wild, right? Just insane how smooth the transition from him just walking off the bench cold, 3 throws on the sideline to come in and get ready, and then he comes in and goes straight down the field for a touchdown.
In like 3 plays.
Freshman.
4 plays.
Insane.
Kiffin was just having a ball. Like I felt like, I don't know about you, Chris, and we're not taking anything away from Dart.
Yeah.
Kiffin's loyal, and I really respect that about him. But I'm sure in that moment, like even the commentators after that drive, because it was a CBS game, like they were talking like, do you stick with the hot hand?
Right. Well, dude, that's the thing. When Dart, because he got rolled up on and his ankle got injured, and it literally, I was at the game, it looked bad. And on the replay, I'm like, oh gosh, this might be it. And then Austin comes in, so obviously you're like, all right, well that's all right, but we're kind of
yeah,
does what he does, and now you're like, sling it, let's go, keep it rolling. But then Dart comes back out, which you're happy to see. But then again, like you said, could we? Yeah. We probably could have, but Dart's he's got that mentality. You weren't going to keep him out of that game, no doubt.
Right. Did you happen to watch that drive on TV at any point, like after?
Oh, dude, I've watched it probably 40 times.
Okay, so you saw Kiffin's body language and on the sideline and the assistant talking to him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed, and Dart, like you said, Dart was grabbing his helmet like 2 plays after on that drive. And like he was like, put me back in, I'm medically cleared kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember there was a moment, I don't know if it was a trainer, you may, like an assistant coach, somebody went up to Kiffin and said something to Kiffin, and Kiffin's response, I couldn't read lips, but to me it just seemed like, and this was mid Simmons drive, to me it just seemed like, no, keep Dart on the sideline, I want to see what I got.
Right.
And it was just like, you didn't know at that moment if it meant like Dart staying on the bench the whole game. Obviously it did not. It was just
Right.
Kiffin intrigued to see, I think, what he got from Simmons on that whole drive, how Simmons reacted coming in cold, like you said, and it worked out extremely positive for Ole Miss. I think that was one of, probably that will go down as something that is never talked about, but one of my favorite Lane Kiffin coaching moments, coordinator, head coach ever, because he's so confident and such a great coach that he knew he had money to play with a little bit. This is early season 2, right? So before a lot of the unfortunate losses for Ole Miss, like he said, this is one drive. It's early in the game. We're at home. I want to see how this kid reacts. If he throws a pick 6, knock on wood, worst case scenario, at least I know. And it worked out, right? He got a drive, like you said, full sample size of Simmons. It's exactly what you said. Like, it was just poetry down the field.
Yeah, and imagine how that felt to Kiffin to put your guy in there who's been busting his tail all spring, all whatever, and then working behind this guy, and then you put him in, and literally you couldn't have scripted that to go any better than it really did. I mean, I think he had maybe one incomplete. I'm not sure, but like I said, it was just a crazy, insane drive. And like I said, Kiffin in his playbook of playbooks, I know he probably had a separate one just for Austin when he went.
Yeah.
And he's like, this can't keep working. There's no way. And to play 2, play 3, play, and then boom, 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 boom. And then here we are. So it's got to be a great feeling for Coach Kiffin, too. Like you said, just to know when the guy came to him, probably said, hey, Jack's good to go. You can throw him back in. He's like, nah, pump the brakes. We're going to, like you said, play it out.
Yeah.
Right? See.
Oh, right there. He just knew his whole offseason was Gucci. Like, he's like, okay, like, he's probably on that drive thinking.
That's why he's doing yoga and getting all fit right now, because he knows he's in good shape, you know?
Yeah. he's set, man. And it was just cool to see that, again, that moment. I wanted to call it out. We're building all this up to say all of this, to say, bet the house on freaking Austin Simmons, man. That cat, it's not that, like, we're high on him. The frustrating thing for Chris and I is, like, he's not even being talked about beyond the SEC. Like, if you're talking SEC, who are the cats? Okay, so Nico's dad left, and Nico. And then, but you still got DJ Lagway. You got Lenora Sellers. You got Garrett Nussmeier, who threw, like 13 interceptions? Like, and Austin Simmons hasn't even, but Taylon Green's being talked about more, Chris.
Yeah. Well, and with the level of offense that is going to be produced from any Ole Miss offense, regardless, if we had Uncle Rico at quarterback, Lane Kiffin would find a way for us to score points. So take that for what it's worth. But with Austin Simmons in there doing the same thing, we brought in Stribling at receiver, the guy from Penn State, who, thank God we got him, because Drew Aller can't throw a pass to a daggone barn. So whatever, I'm glad he's going to get to catch some balls from a good quarterback. But, we got a bunch of guys, Caleb Cunningham coming out of high school. We got the talent around him, the running backs that are going to be able to support the run game to make his pass game so much easier. I'm just hoping he doesn't have to lower his shoulder like Dart did a bunch of times, but if we can keep him and let him do what he does, it's going to be crazy, man. I'm just, like you said, it's, I can't believe more people aren't talking about it. I can, but I can't.
Right.
Same time.
You looked up his odds. What were they?
I think plus 3,300 roundabout on a couple of sites that I was able to find him on. So, like you said,
for non-odds experts, like if you bet $1 theoretically and he wins it, you make $33 by just betting $1.
Right. Because 100 would make you what, 3,300, right?
Yeah.
So
$33, 3,300.
Let's go, man. It's easy.
Pay off a house.
There you go.
I actually did, FYI to the audience, I did a sports betting 101 episode a while ago. So if you want to refer back to that, if you're unfamiliar with how like the pluses, like Chris talked about, work, refer to that. I stick basic. I just did like win losses at the time I aired it. The playoffs were starting for the NFL. So But I think, Chris, like, I really like your point about will he run as much as Jackson Dart and Matt Corral. I see less running, I hope, because Simmons is a more polished passer, wouldn't you say, than the other two? Like the other two could throw, but
yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I said I expect a different looking offense, just because I think that Austin, like I said, with the running backs being able to do most of the getting more yards rushing, he's not going to have to do that and lower his shoulder as much and try to do these quarterback draws and all this random stuff we'd have Jackson do, just because he's, he was built a little different, a little bit a little bit more solid. And Jackson, he wanted to take on a hit every once in a while. Like I said, I hope Austin will shy away from that and just sling the rock. And I'm sure he can dance when he wants to, because I know he can run too, but I'd prefer him not to, and just, like I said, let the backs do that job. And we got a new tight end coming in to go with Daquan Wright. So, like I said, the tight end room's also on top of the wide receivers, man. It's just, if everybody stays healthy, it's one of those things. Everybody's like 10-2, 11-1, maybe 8-4. I think 10-2 is the low end for sure, and I think potential's unlimited. So
I forgot about Daquan Wright.
Yeah, another stud, bro. Look at the kid.
Priestcorn's gone, but he's still there, right?
Yeah, Daquan Wright's still there. And like I said, we brought in Luke Haas from Arkansas.
Yes.
And that guy, I went to high school with a guy named Wesley Richardson, who he coached at Bixby, Oklahoma, where Luke Haas went to high school at. And he gave me a little, this kid, another one. Like I said, I'm excited to see the 12 personnel, put those two on the field together, and 6'3", 6'4" tight ends, 260 each. I mean, let them block, let them run, let them catch, do it all. So
I know Haas wasn't recruited when to Arkansas. He was recruited there before Petrino was OC, but I am surprised that he left with Petrino as OC. Yeah. Nonetheless, though, I say that now, like as I'm talking, he went to Lane Kiffin, so it's not really a downgrade.
Can't lose. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year though, this is kind of off topic, but like I'm just talking tight ends. I hope they use them more, because I saw Priestcorn not used as much as he should have been. I feel like they singularly focused on Trey Harris last year too much at times.
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration with the lack of use of tight ends, because we saw glimpses of it in some of the early games with, some of the lesser opponents where and I get it that the competition level changed, but those guys were still as talented as they are. And, like I said, Priestcorn got picked up and he's going to be in the league probably, he'll make the squad, I'm sure. But yes, there's so much room for growth if he would pass the tight ends a little more. Like, it just opens up so much,
Right.
So, and like I said, with Trey Harris, I think that's part of the reason why he was injured for the last half of the season, was because we used him so much in the first half, because we chose to do that as opposed to going to the guys. So,
good call out. Man, Simmons is so smart as well. Like, you got to think he'll understand the value of spreading it around, using the tight ends, etc. Well, we could salivate all day about your receivers. I want to read you this list, and because the lists have been out for a while now, like top teams and quarterbacks. There's been a bunch ranking the quarterbacks preseason in the SEC that are projected to be starters. I challenge you to find one that has Austin freaking Simmons in their top 10. It's wild, the amount of disrespect. So let me read this to you real quick. You can react and share your frustrations with me. John Mateer won, the Oklahoma quarterback. Lenora Sellers, we can get behind that a little bit, right? At 2, he's good. He can take over a game. He's not a polished passer, though, like Austin Simmons. Arch Manning at 3. Garrett Nussmeier at 4. DJ Lagway at 5. Diego, this is where I get sketched. Diego Pavia at 6, Bandy. Caitlin Green at 7. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
Okay. Jackson Arnold, Auburn at 8. Former OU. Had to leave OU. My God. Geez, brace yourself for this one. I don't know. That maybe I picked the wrong site. Blake Shapen, Mississippi State at 9. This is on RollTideWire.com. Marcel Reed, Texas A&M at 10. Gunnar Stockton.
Commit.
Go ahead.
Former Ole Miss Rebel commit.
Yeah. Gunnar Stockton at 11. Mike Bobo is not going to do crap. You saw that in Oxford. Ty Simpson, 12. Austin Simmons, 13. Matches his number. I guess that's the logic they went with. Congrats. Like, matches his
all
number.
You could say. It's got to be because of his number, for sure. That's the only logical explanation for that.
And I've seen, like, I think Saturday Down South, I'm sorry if I'm quoting wrong. It might have been Andy and Ari with On 3. They did a top 10, maybe a top 10 SEC. Like, he is nowhere, man. Like, it's just wild to me. Not only is he a stud athlete, we've talked about it, but the freaking coaching. It's not like he's going to a Zach Arnett-led team.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is
like wild. I said, the program has been built. You see what they're building, and I don't think anyone expects it to go back down to where we used to be 10, 12, 15 years ago as Ole Miss football program. You know, it's clearly on the rise, and things are, I mean, got one of the best, you know, Grove Collective is one of the best collectives in the business at doing what we do to get these guys in to continue to make us, you know, competitive and a productive football team. And yeah, man, the disrespect is real, but it all comes out in the wash, man. I just can't wait. Cause like I said, I don't foresee Ole Miss winning less than 10 games this season. And with that, you can't tell me that Diego Pavia, that Ty Simpson, these guys, there's how do you get into the conversation? Just I want to know how. Easy. Just show me. Right? 1 + 1 is what? I don't wait. What? You know? I don't know.
Let me pull up your schedule real quick. So the first game, Georgia State at home. That's a win. At Kentucky, I will guarantee that is a win just because of the motivation of what happened last year.
Right.
There's no way.
Agreed.
So then. Sorry, I lost it for a second. So then Arkansas at home, Tulane at home. Dude, that's going to be a good game.
That'd be a great game. Tulane always plays us tough, whether it's home or whatever. I went to New Orleans a couple years ago, had a great time down there. That was an awesome ball game. Oh, that
was a good game.
What a great game.
Their coach now he's a former Kentucky player. I forget his name at the moment, but they're good. They didn't miss a beat because they had Willie Fritz left.
Yeah, right.
For Houston.
Been there for a long time, yeah.
LSU, wow. You got 3 home games in a row. 4. Because
I don't think we leave Oxford for a month, I think it is, or something like that. So
that's clutch for him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, his first true road test is at Georgia on October 18th.
Right. And that's going to be I was down in Georgia the last time it was 52-7 or whatever it was. Or gosh, that was a not great trip in the rain.
The top road games, I would say, you can tell me I'm wrong. So then you're at Oklahoma. I consider that tough, even if Oklahoma's not good, just because of the environment. Home against South Carolina, home against the Citadel, home against Florida, at Mississippi State, I would see as a tough game as well because it's your rival.
Right.
But a lot of a run of home games get you through October, and a lot of your tougher games are at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I think the only 2 that I think potential, like you said, that Georgia OU stretch is going to be tough on anybody, but you know, because I expect Oklahoma to do better than they did last year, this year, and Georgia's just is Georgia. You know, no more needs to be said about that. And like other than that, like you said, the Florida game with them coming to Oxford, that ought to be. I expect us kind of to turn that back around from where we ended up last year with them in Gainesville in the state game. Like I said, it's a rivalry game. It may be close, but I have no doubt. I don't even know if they'll have a head coach by that time. You know, who knows what's going on with that program. So anyhow. Good luck to them.
I got my animal noises in the background. I'm not sorry.
Don't ever.
I think Georgia, too, that's intriguing because say what I want to say about Mike Bobo. Kirby Smart still runs that defense and technically Glenn Schumann. But, like, that's a challenge for a quarterback, especially, like, Kirby got dog walked by Simmons last year when Simmons came in the game on that one drive. So he's going to be ready. You know, he's going to be paying attention to that. But, Chris, it's awesome talking with you about this, man. I'm team Austin Simmons. I mean, it's just fascinating how much people are like, I am pro Lenoris as well. I've actually written articles on him, but like at least he's got the odds to match it. Like Simmons, man, look out for this kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dart last year, I think he was at what plus 1,500 to win it or whatever, which was
okay,
I thought that was pretty fair.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I'd expect plus $2,000, 2,500 from Austin, maybe roundabout is what just because he doesn't have as much experience as Jackson. But I think the 3,300 is kind of a slap in the face, man. Like you said, that may just be free house money. So jump on it if you do.
All right, man. Well, thanks so much again for hopping on. Let people know again how they can find you.
Yeah, Chris Pruden. It's Ole Miss Chris on Instagram. Party Pruden on X. Thanks again.
All right, hotty toddy, everybody.
Hotty toddy, guys.